Secure some price for Thursday, June 5th, 2025, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center, and this show, a presentation of Bet365. Matt Sekerson alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, Hit and Switch is conducting things. On a newsy day. Yeah, just got some news from the Vancouver Canucks on the coaching staff for new head coach Adam Foote. We will get to that, as well as Abbotsford's thrilling victory last night in the AHL playoff Stanley Cup final. And Gary, state of the league.
Also, two words that people don't love to hear, but also can't stay away. Practice facility.
Yes.
Not since Seatbeat has there been a more divisive topic amongst Canucks fans.
As for Gary, league has never been stronger.
No. Got a concern there? It's not a concern for me. Got a concern here? Not a concern for me.
Concern for me. Stronger.
Things you've never thought about, those are concerns for us.
Going to the Olympics, big concern. I don't know. We don't get the VIP treatment from the IOC. Big concern.
Yeah.
Tax jurisdictions, inequality in the salary cap? Nah, not so much. Our Bogey Juice poll question today: did the Canucks give up on Vasily Podkolzin too soon? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Sekerson Price X and YouTube channels. Vasily Podkolzin, now a member of the Edmonton Oilers and 3 wins away from a Stanley Cup ring. You may remember the Canucks' first overall pick from that Vancouver draft here at Rogers Arena, 10th overall, traded to Edmonton in August for a 2025 fourth-round pick. It will be the 117th selection in this month's draft. They did so to make room for newcomers Danton Heinen and Daniel Sprong. Vasily making $1 million this year and is still club control. He's making $1 million next year and then will still be club controlled beyond that. Production wasn't there as a Vancouver Canuck, at least towards the end. He played 19 games in his final season with Vancouver last year. Did not score a goal. Had just 4 in 39 NHL games the previous season. This after 14 in his rookie year when we all thought he was making strides towards the end of that campaign. His playing time also slipped as a Canuck, was playing 12:48 as a rookie, 11:50 as a sophomore, just 10:49 when it was all said and done in his final Canucks season. Was 8 goals, 24 points for the Edmonton Oilers this year, averaging 13 minutes plus per night. He's been a physical presence for Edmonton. That was on display last night in that fantastic overtime. Game 1. Although his minutes are down. He's a pure fourth liner in the playoffs playing just.
But his points per game are up. Yeah. It was 7 points in 17 games. That's better than what he was doing in the regular season when it's usually easier to play.
So I voted yes on the poll. Here's the thing. Did we criticize Vasily Podkolzin for a lack of production, particularly as his Canucks career went along? Yes, we did. For a team that needed goals, Vasily Podkolzin had to be a bigger part of the solution than what he was. That said, he was a 23-year-old young player with runway ahead of him, and you moved him to a division rival that was cap crunched and looking for cheap labor for a fourth-round pick, which we also criticized as not necessarily a move. Well, look, anytime you'll remember after last year, it was all about how do we get over the Edmonton Oilers, right? They're going to be there in the Pacific Division year in, year out. And the Canucks helped their cause with this trade. So, due criticism.
As people know, I've been a Podz fan from the start. I was resigned to the trade when it happened because they just didn't want to use him. They clearly were feeling like he was not ready, and they didn't want to give him the playing time. Well, he played every single game for the Edmonton Oilers this season. No healthy scratches. He wasn't just on the roster for the whole season. He played in 82 games for the Edmonton Oilers this season. So they thought he was an NHLer during the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, and look, for Edmonton, he's fine just to be a fourth liner and a physical presence. In Vancouver, they would have needed him to be more than that, right? Is that fair?
But this is an NHL contender that still found room for him in their lineup and will allow him, I think, still to develop. Again, this is a 23-year-old as we speak right now.
Yeah.
He is almost a full 2 years younger than Linus Karlsson, whom everybody is anointing as sort of the darling prospect to watch here for the Canucks next season. Karlsson's 25. Give 2 more years of runway, see where Podkolzin is at. The biggest problem for Podkolzin, according to everyone inside there, was that he was so afraid of making a mistake that the offense completely dried up. He is such a responsible and conscientious player. He wants to dot the I's and cross the T's before he's even drawn the rest of the letter. So as soon as he's more comfortable playing at the NHL level, I think the offense will again rise to its appropriate level. And as I said from the get-go, and you've called back on this as well, Matt, he's not going to set the world on fire offensively at the best of times.
No.
But after 14 goals, 12 assists in his rookie season at the NHL level, is it reasonable to expect that he might become an 18-goal, 20-assist guy, 38, 40-point guy? Yeah, I think that is a reasonable expectation 2-3 years down the road. Absolutely. So it's too bad. Again, it's not going to be the one that you really regret. There's no Cam Neely trade here. But there was a useful National Hockey League player that they gave up on.
Yep, for Daniel Sprong and Danton Heinen.
Who are not.
Well, certainly Sprong wasn't. I mean, he was barely here for a cup of coffee.
Played for 2 more franchises
and then
since.
Just the other thing that I've seen here, and look, I get it. Coaches control ice time. But a lot of people are blaming Rick Tocchet for that, saying, no, Tocchet had no use for him. Tocchet wanted Sprong or Tocchet wanted Heinen. When it comes to personnel matters, head coaches make suggestions. GMs and presidents make decisions. So, fair enough. If the head coach's opinion was, look, I don't think this guy is it, I'd prefer other guys, okay. But at the end of the day, it's on Alvin, it's on Rutherford to make the personnel decisions. They made this trade, not Rick Tocchet. Could have used bogey juice yesterday.
Oh! The career best round did not materialize.
Blake Price style round yesterday.
Oh, forgot how to play the sport.
Almost.
Yeah.
Golf. It'll do that to you. It'll do that to you.
And you need the off-ramp. And that off-ramp is bogey juice, folks. Use the code SP15 at bogeyjuice.com. Get 15% off your order. And even if you're not a golfer, at the very least, you've got a new drink for spring and summer.
Mm-hmm.
Crisp apple, ginger, top shelf vodka. It's a delightful mix with some soda over ice. Get yourself a fabulous summer cocktail. And look outside. The weather is spectacular.
It is.
Go to bogeyjuice.com.
We will get to the Canucks coaching staff in a second, but first our top story by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. 1 win away. The Abbotsford Canucks beat Texas 5-4 in double overtime last night on the road, take a commanding 3-1 series lead in their best-of-7 AHL Western Conference final. Danila Klimovich with a wonder goal to win it. He only draws into the lineup because Manny Malhotra healthy scratches Jonathan Lekramaki and Sammy Blais. Dave Hall called this on Rink-Wide Vancouver a couple of nights ago, said it was time for Lekramaki to get a reset. He had been so quiet in this series and frankly in the postseason for some time now. But that is a very bold move from Malhotra. Because, I mean, Lekramaki's your top forward prospect. You know, you want to see him play and play in games of import and play through struggles. So from a development side of the equation, Lekkerimäki should be playing every night.
And Blaze, your energy guy with some physicality,
Right.
and this has been an energy physical sort of series here with the Stars.
He got under the skin of the Stars earlier in the series. And then on the flip side, inserting Klimovich, who has been a big fat zero from time to time, a boomer bust type player, and sure enough, it pays off.
Well, and also, Matt, the fact that he was deployed in overtime. It's one thing to dress Klimovich, but in overtime, where the one fatal mistake can cost you, and he is capable of fatal mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't know what his shift, how many shifts he pulled down in overtime. Mm-hmm. But you almost get the feeling that's just sort of a one-off of, okay, give him one, see what he does. And he goes and has one of the wonder goals of the season.
Did we play the video, Mike?
Yes,
Sorry if I missed it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, just a stunning goal. We'll see if that can kickstart Danila. Linus Karlsson with his playoff-leading 9th goal of the season. Tristan Nielsen scored twice, and Victor Mancini added the other. Attaboy Victor. He had a beautiful end-to-end rush the other day, too.
Yep.
Christian Wallana with a 2-point night, matching Karlsson, Mancini, and Nielsen. Artur Shilovs makes 27 saves for the Abbotsford Canucks, who chase Texas goalie Remy Poirier after he allows 4 goals on 11 shots. Magnus Hellberg replaced. I had heard Brandon Astle, who does such a wonderful job calling these Abbotsford Canucks games, say earlier in the series he was a little surprised they went to Poirier. It had sort of been they doubled up on Poirier. It had basically been a 2-goalie arrangement for the Texas Stars. They chose to trust Poirier, and he let them down last night. So I suspect you'll see Hellberg in Friday's, could be clinching, Game 5 in Austin. If necessary, Game 6 is back here in Abbotsford on Sunday at 6 p.m., and the Calder Cup schedule is actually already set. We know Charlotte is the East Division champion, the Florida Panthers farm team. They swept the Laval Rocket.
Feet are already up.
Right. And they would have home ice advantage in the Calder Cup final against either the Canucks or the Texas Stars. So if it is Abbotsford, and 3 kicks at this can now, games 3 through 5 would be in June 17th, 19th, and June 21st, if necessary, Game 5 at Abbotsford Center.
Game 1 is next Thursday, is that correct? A week from now?
We have the graphic up there? Friday.
It's Friday.
Friday
13th.
So if you do your business here,
You got a week off.
Mm-hmm. And so then you sort of even up the fact that they've had all this rest. It's sort of neither here nor there because you've had enough rest as well.
Yeah. If you're playing till Sunday or Monday, then that's a cross-continent flight to Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, you still have some rest, but maybe not ideal rest.
Yeah.
And, of course, we'll see how they come out of this, too, right? Injury-wise. Poor Ratu. Came back, lasted 14 minutes, missed again last night.
But a week and a half off in between games for him, and he might be able to get back in there. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But a fabulous development, and it's great for all these players to be getting these repetitive do-or-die situations. Repetitive.
Yes.
Every night.
High-stakes games,
yes.
Right? Like, these are high-stakes games. Because, look, at this stage in the proceedings, Blake, and Lawrence Gilman has edified us on this in the past, yeah, the eyes of the hockey watching world are on the Stanley Cup final. But the eyes of the inside the hockey world are watching these games pretty closely, too. Like, you got every team that's looking in on these games. Okay, who's the player? Who do we like? There are trade discussions later this summer with Dallas or with Vancouver or with Florida. Who's on their AHL teams? Who do we? Hey, very much like the process that led them to Victor Mancini from the New York Rangers, right?
Yeah.
It was clear that Victor Mancini was a key part of the JT Miller trade. A lot of fans looked at it and went, Filipino in a first-round pick. The second the trade went down, Blake and I are getting texts from the likes of Frank Corrado and other people inside the industry going, that Mancini kid is a player. So there you go. You can open up eyes across the NHL, not just with your own franchise. by performing in these conference finals and soon to be Calder Cup final in the AHL.
I'm going to be forced to pronounce something that I don't know how to pronounce here today.
I will say this. Blake is an exceptional pronouncer. Blake either knows the phonetic rules that are in play and across multiple languages, too.
You're building this way, too. I'm gonna screw it up.
Blake almost never mispronounces. And I screw things up from time to time. I get tripped up sometimes on syllables and whatnot. This guy is as professionally trained a broadcaster, Sports Center host, play-by-play man. I mean, he's got the full game in his locker.
With all that build-up, today, Neighborhood Brewing is releasing a new beer. The Be Cool Pineapple Tepache.
Spell it?
Tepache. Tepache. Probably a Belgian brewing technique.
French origin. You go ahead and get the read done. I'm going to look this sucker up. Tepache.
Tepache. I'm going to guess it's a Belgian brewing technique. We'll find out. The funky little number, tart and tropical refresher inspired by the traditional Mexican Tepache. Bursting with juicy pineapple with a hint of cinnamon for some warmth. Be Cool is a laid-back brew with a crisp and tangy finish that hits just right.
So I thought it was French. Well, you mentioned Mexican. Therefore, it's Spanish. New Tepache would be wrong.
Yeah.
Tepache.
Tepache.
And is a fermented beverage made from the peel and the rind of pineapples, sweetened, often with brown sugar.
Have you ever been more intrigued now?
Ooh, sometimes with chili powder.
Than for this sounds like they've got something hot cinnamon to sort of be that spice. The Be Cool Pineapple Tepache.
Tepache.
It's available.
So not Belgian.
Not Belgian.
Couple of errors there.
Well, I was assuming.
Adam Foote's staff is now complete. We knew that Kevin Dean would be a part of it, and it does appear that Kevin Dean will be the lead assistant. Brett McLean and Scott Young will round out the bench staff for Adam Foote. There is no previous NHL head coaching experience here. In fact, it's kind of light on coaching experience to begin with.
Yeah.
Young had been the Canucks director of player personnel, well known to Rutherford and Alvin from the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. He had previously served as an assistant to David Quinn at Boston University. And David Quinn apparently back in the NHL as an assistant. He'd also served as a head coach in the Massachusetts high school ranks. Brett McLean is from Comox. He was the Iowa Wild's head coach for the last couple of years. That's in the AHL, the Minnesota Wild affiliate.
So they stole an AHL head coach, which is a bit of a
So he has
coup.
head coaching experience. In fact, he's got 8 years coaching in the Wild organization. He was an assistant on the NHL staff as well. Yogi Svechkovsky, who we know is off to join Rick Tocchet, no longer with the organization. Neither is Sergei Gonchar or video coach Dylan Crawford. That's Mark's son.
So they've gutted it.
Well, Marco Terranius is back as goaltender coach, and the club also announced the Sedins and Jason Krog going to return in their current roles on the development side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
no one fires the Twins.
Yeah, I mean,
the Twins fire you.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to bring this up, but Danny and Hank, are they just going to continue on in this role full time?
Till their kids are fully of age and they just feel like it's time to roll out of here, go back to Sweden, or they get the bug and they declare we are interested in becoming bench coaches. But I would be blown away if that is a decision that they make. I think they are more than happy to be away from the daily grind.
Yeah. J-Pat has noted from a boat somewhere near Prince Rupert. Where do you think he is by now? When did he start his float? Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, he's somewhere
Is he clear of BC now?
Oh,
He's on the Alaskan coast now?
Is Juneau the low hanging city there?
I don't know.
I think he's probably somewhere off of Juneau.
Is he?
Yeah. In the Alaskan Panhandle.
Do you think he'll encounter any of those vessels on Deadliest Catch?
Maybe. Maybe he's as low as Ketchikan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scott Young scored in the NHL. Was a 40-goal guy at one point in the NHL. Brett McLean put up huge offensive totals in junior hockey. McLean ran Minnesota's power play when he was an assistant coach there. 3 seasons in that role, Canucks News Summaries reporting power play ran at 20%, which was tied for 18th overall. So, okay.
Fine.
Yeah. Is there any concern about Young going from the front office to the bench? Like, does that suggest to you that, okay, he got the job because he's known to everybody?
Here's the thing I would say about that is the stream of management is generally considered a more lucrative stream. And for
you tend not to bounce around as often. Yeah, you get a little bit more life stability if you're in the front office than if you're a pure assistant.
So for him to sign up and say, you know what, I'm going to change streams, I'm going to go back behind the bench, to me, there's some good gumption there. There's I want it. I want it, so I'm going to change the stream here.
I should also mention McLean started for the Kelowna Rockets when he was putting up all those offensive totals. And the other thing about McLean is he should know Marco Rossi really well, right? If you've been around that organization for as long as he has, I would trust he has a really good book on Marco Rossi. We mentioned that Rossi is going to be in demand, firmly on the block. We mentioned there'd be tons of suitors. We mentioned the Utah Mammoth were floating the 4th overall pick or willing to trade that for a top 6 forward. And we did mention yesterday, Utah's head coach, Andre Tourigny, coached Rossi in junior with the Ottawa 67s. I read a quote he gave to the I think it was to the Athletic, about, and like just praise, laudations. He is a pro's pro. He does everything right. So I think there's going to be competition for Rossi, needless to say. And then the other thing we should mention, and I'm not sure if we mentioned this yesterday, because Mike Russo from the Athletic in Minnesota is reporting this. Look, the Wild were absolutely targeting Brock Nelson in free agency. He's a Minnesota guy. Mm-hmm. And so him re-signing with Colorado takes one of their replacement options away if they move Marco Rossi. And Russo is now musing that Bill Guerin may need a center back in any kind of Marco Rossi trade.
And he wants a bigger center back, so there's now some rumblings about Boston, and maybe they do a Zacha Rossi swap there, something to that effect. So it definitely, Nelson staying put, if you were a pro Rossi acquisition person, it harmed that for the Canucks. Nelson going back to Minnesota would have helped the Canucks case.
The other thing we should note here with Marco Torrenius coming back as goaltending coach, and I was a little surprised about that because I thought Torrenius was just sort of the last minute, let's just promote the AHL guy after things blew up with Ian Clark last year. And did I miss it? I don't believe there was any mention of Ian Clark in the press release, was there? I didn't see it.
No.
No, I guess they could argue, well, Ian's no longer a coach, he's a scout. But Artur Shilov's best work has come under Ian Clark, not Marco Torrenius, both at the NHL and the AHL level. So while the Artie Party story is fantastic in the AHL and with what he's doing, and he gave up 4 last night, but throughout the postseason, we've talked about the 5 shutouts, the goals against, the save percentage are all exemplary. He hasn't shone under this goaltending coach. Struggled when Marco was at the AHL level. Struggled this past year in the NHL when Marco was the goaltending coach. So, I'm sure Artur Shilovs would invite a trade to wherever Ian Clark lands. But Ian Clark is sort of the big Artur Shilovs believer and whisperer, so we'll see where that file goes.
Artur Shilovs is doing everything he needs to help his lot in life right now. So
That's right.
I think he's
doing
right.
He's doing well. Dhaliwal also saying the Canucks have interest in Cranbrook's Bowen Byram on defense. More on that with Patrick Johnston later in the program.
They've had ancestral interest in him as well. So
yes,
they're kind of just going back to it more than anything. But
well, he's
natural
readily
fit.
available. He's readily available right now. He has been readily available.
That's right.
For some time because he doesn't plan on signing an extension with the Buffalo Sabres. He feels a little blocked there with Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power. And so it becomes a matter of when, not if, on a Bowen Byram trade. And he's a good player. So you're not doing your job.
And honestly, it's a year early because the Canucks would know a lot more in a year's time about the future of them with Quinn Hughes. Mm-hmm. And, then they could maybe make something work there. But right now, they'd be busting at the seams with defensemen.
Oh, yeah. Edmonton wins Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final 4-3 in overtime on a gorgeous goal from Leon Draisaitl. I mean, 3 different Oilers make sensational plays with the puck to get Draisaitl the disc in a great scoring opportunity in front of Bobrovsky. Boy, what a fantastic overtime period it was, too.
It was a great game.
And Edmonton, forgive me, I was on the golf course, so I missed most of the game, but I did catch the overtime, and wow. We talked about these are the 2 best teams in hockey. Looked every bit the case, particularly Edmonton.
Well,
when Edmonton gets on those rolls and starts generating that offense, they're a joy to watch if you love hockey.
And it avoids a very contentious issue that helped them early in these playoffs. Jim Hiller with the controversial challenge that may have given their playoff run life. And in this game, they challenged that initial Sam Bennett goal. And it didn't lead immediately to another goal, but it sucked away the momentum of the initial goal from Draisaitl. And Edmonton was just they were hitting on all cylinders.
Had to play from behind then.
And then ultimately did give up the momentum and the 2-1 goal and had to play from behind. So you wonder, it would have been an issue. In the end, they end up coming from behind again and winning, and they pull it out of the fire, and they don't have to answer that question much.
Yes, and the other thing is, I heard this stat the other day, teams with home ice in the Stanley Cup Final who win Game 1 are something like 52-10 all time. Now, didn't work out in 2011, but nevertheless, that is the stat.
Yeah, it's
you are overwhelming favorites to lift the cup if you win Game 1 on home ice.
He was, or they were
which kind of flies in the face of, the series doesn't begin until the road team wins the game. Now, home teams in the Stanley Cup Final winning Game 1 have hammered down more often than not.
There was a different vibe from them last night.
Oh, yeah. You could argue they're getting better, Blake.
Yeah. And they're not flat-footed. They looked a little flat-footed in the first few games last year on the big stage, and there was no flat-footedness.
Well, I mean, do you subscribe to the notion that Connor McDavid is not going to allow his team to lose 2 cup finals in a row?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Klingberg and Wallman did not play a lot of games with the Oilers this year after their acquisition. It only stands to reason they're getting more and more comfortable with this group. Kasperi Kapanen, holy cow. For a guy who was about to be written off, has bounced around franchises. First-round pick, always had the size, always had the speed. At one point, Blake was all over this kid. Oh.
Well, Canucks were so damn slow. I just wanted somebody with speed.
I know. Boy, is he making an impact as well.
5 points in 8 games since they reinserted him.
Yeah. And the guy went months between scoring goals. He scored that big overtime goal against Vegas in the last series, and he's taken off now, too.
He's almost got half of his NHL regular season production he only had 13 points this year.
Yeah. In these playoffs.
Yeah.
So Oilers getting contributions from all over. But here's the thing. Florida's an exceptional team. Defending Cup champ. They're not done here.
No, they're not flapped either.
No. No,
and that's why
there are some teams that would have looked at that game from Edmonton and said, "Holy shit, are we in it here? That is a mighty, mighty team." I don't think Florida's one of them.
Well, that's why this is a very good Stanley Cup final.
Oh yes, it is.
Like these are two teams that know what they want to do, and it's just going to be a slugfest in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
I think.
Like even if you have zero rooting interest whatsoever, if you're a hockey fan, this is a good series. And the Oilers were able to be the kryptonite to this one stat about the Florida Panthers. Did you see this? In the Paul Maurice era in Florida, the Panthers had never lost a game after holding a lead at the end of the first or second period. They were 31-0 when holding a lead after 20 or 40 minutes under Maurice in the playoffs. They're now 31-1 after the Oil come back. And I'm not sure you saw, I didn't mention this yesterday, but we have to get to it today because there's been a development on the file. You may have noticed the CN Tower lit up orange and blue for the Edmonton Oilers. I guess this is a national flex from the CN Canadian National, right? And of course, the Empire State Building has been doing this for a while, either New York teams or some sort of big event that's out there. They light up in different colors. So the CN Tower goes orange
BC
and
Place
blue.
does this too.
A lot of people in Toronto going like, why is the CN Tower going Oilers colors? The last word on this goes to the Calgary Tower. You know they have a tower in Calgary? Just to be totally clear, the Calgary Tower will be lit blue and orange on Monday, June 10th for Action Anxiety Day and for no other reason whatsoever. We've got love for our neighbors to the north and all across the province, but no, never.
That's good that they clarified.
Well done, Calgary Tower.
I mean, the orange in the CN Tower was not super orange. It was borderline red. It looked a
reddish.
Little in the night sky. It looked a little like those terrible City Connect jerseys of the Blue Jays.
They are terrible City Connect jerseys.
Yeah. Never.
There are so many different color palettes and jersey schemes that work for that team. And the moment those came out, I have yet to see someone say, "Oh, look at those."
Well, when you have to squint to figure out what's going on.
Exactly. The lettering is lost. What is that?
It's not punchy. It's just...
No. It's not any of those things. Irf Gaffar. And Irf is sitting in for Jeff here on Rinkwide Vancouver. Of course, Jeff's away for these post-game Abbotsford Canucks. Abbotsford Canucks coverage post-game. Irf, yes, the Canucks brass was in Burnaby visiting the Rosemary Brown Rec Center. Canucks fan posted a photo of this yesterday as a potential practice facility location. South Burnaby a little far. They were also at Britannia before that. It's an area they would love to revitalize. And then Irf goes on to say, the news that matters the most here is they are actively looking, going and seeing different venues all over. It's a step in the right direction.
Well, my question would be, where have these visits been for the last few years?
Well, that's it. Like, I thought Rutherford was turning over every rock here.
Yeah.
Like, he's not from the community. Someone local needs to shepherd him and say, okay, here's where all the community rec centers are, where there's ice sheets. Let's go explore each and every one.
The Rosemary Brown is a very new facility, so be fairly easy, I would think, to add on there.
Britannia is not.
Britannia is ancient, and I mean, it's a teardown, I would think.
Well, revitalize, I think, is the key word there.
And if you're going to do that, Matt, why not? And I think it would be just such a great collab. You know the PWHL team is going to be moving into the Agrodome and doing stuff there. Why wouldn't you pool resources? And, hey, they're about bottom dollar, the Vancouver Canucks, and maybe that's the reason the coaching staff is as inexperienced as it is this year. It's going to be the cheapest probably bench on the entire National Hockey League.
Well, we don't, Blake. We don't know that. Like, we have no idea on assistant coaches' salaries in other.
I would put large sums on it being in the bottom third of the NHL. Okay. I feel very comfortable saying that. Why not pool resources with the PWHL team and do a grand thing? You could. I mean, you could share so many facilities and lower the price, and it would be great out there.
That means you have to be a good partner,
right? And they have generally proven.
That means you have to consider others.
Yep.
And this concept of goodwill.
Yep.
That often eludes this Canucks franchise. I saw somebody on Twitter, X, this morning or last night go, the insane part is the Aquilinis are land developers. Yeah. This is what they do. They buy land. They build facilities on that land.
But you can't help but think his reputation precedes him, and very few people want to conduct deals with him.
Well, as Patrick Johnston has told us in the past, and we don't talk practice facility with PJ on today's hit, we will going forward. Their idea of partnering is, hey, we'll put our logo on your building and you get the shine of the Vancouver Canucks, but we're not paying. And I haven't found willing takers there. We said, no, we need a more holistic, fuller partnership than that.
Versus what we heard from Bill Zito, which
was told our owner, we need a new one. A new one.
Yes.
Not an inaugural one. We need a new one.
And they said, no problem. Boom. Done in a couple of years.
Yeah. Gary Bettman addressed the league at his annual State of the League press conference prior to Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. No desire to equalize tax jurisdictions in the new CBA from the governor's side of the table. Unlikely the PA is going to want this either, so it sounds like that issue is going to die on the vine for the duration of this next CBA, which could be a very, very big oversight. More on that with PJ. No changes to the overtime or playoff format. We know the commissioner is a big fan of the bracket as opposed to 1 through 8 and reseeding. We also know that the commissioner is no fan of a play-in round, which we have seen now in the NBA for the last number of years. Gary was asked about a play-in round. He laughed. He scoffed. He said, we had a play-in. The last 3 positions in the playoffs weren't determined until the last game of the season.
And that's not really what it's about, though, for me. Like, he's right. That's great. But
But you're not guaranteed that every year. In fact, 2 years ago, there was virtually no drama in the final.
But it's not even about the drama. The fact of the matter is 16 teams made the playoffs in a 21-team league, and you've added 11 teams since then. So, I don't think from a competitive standpoint that fans are clamoring for more playoff teams and all that. But from a business sense, Matt, it just there are a few things that we don't like as fans and media because of the over expansion of leagues. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, some things just make sense, and adding a couple of teams in a play-in, it actually just makes sense.
Well,
it does.
My thinking on this has evolved over time, in part because you and Jeff have slammed the table on this in terms of being in favor of a play-in. Especially Jeff. I agree with the commissioner on this side of the ledger. You have all the worthy teams already in your postseason tournament.
Completely.
There is no team coming from below 16th in the overall league standard, 17th.
Once 18th, every 25 years, maybe.
Who is a contender and that you have to make room for.
Yep.
No.
Don't disagree.
There is no there. And so, with a season that's already long enough, and one could also argue, let me get to that in a sec. For a season that's already long enough and a postseason that's already long enough, do I really want to be adding more games and more duration to the interminable NHL season, which is longer than anybody else's season already? That all said, the notion of having something to play for teams below the playoff bar.
In the mushy middle, yes.
All the way down in some cases to maybe just excluding 1 or 2 teams right at the bottom in the final month of the season. Yeah, I can understand the appeal of that because that is something I'm looking at from a fan perspective, especially a season ticket holder perspective. You're paying for 41 games. If the final 8 to 10 games
don't mean anything
of your package don't mean anything, how likely are you to renew? So I get it from the perspective of keeping fans engaged and especially validating the expense for fans who are out there buying tickets and particularly season tickets. And the other thing that I get about it is, let's face it, single game elimination dramas, something we all love.
Yep.
We love game sevens, right? There really is no difference to a play-in game than a game seven. Winner goes on, loser goes home.
And that's what I would propose. No series, no best of 3 here. We're talking single games.
So do it exactly like the NBA does.
I would do it like the NBA does it with the page playoff.
So if you're not familiar, the 7 and 8 seeds in the NBA play.
Winner's in.
The winner is in the 7th seed. The loser of that game waits for 9 and 10 to play. And how that works is if 9 wins the first game, that's it. If 10 wins the first game, then the 10th seed needs to win again to get into the play-in against the loser of the 7.
I would skip that. I would just have 9 and 10 play. Winner plays the loser 7 and 8, and then that determines the last one. I would just do that. Quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty.
Yep. You know, I think it rewards the top seeds a little bit more potentially because you've got some extra fatigue on playing important games for the other thing. Although Gord's in the chat saying he thinks the momentum from those teams will be better than the rest of teams. I don't think for a short amount of time. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that argument.
But we're talking 4 or 5 days.
Right. The other competitive issue that I have with the play-in, though, Blake, there is already an argument that the higher seed is of very little advantage to begin with. Like we talked about this with the 2012 Canucks. They win the President's Trophy. Great. They lose game 1 of the LA Kings on home ice.
Gone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Your advantage is gone. We're playing 6 months and 82 games to have an advantage that can disappear in 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So you're basically, you're certainly putting 7 and 8 at a disadvantage because now they have to play their way in. But you're not addressing the lack of any kind of advantage with the top 6 and particularly the top 4 and particularly the number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is there.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there is a good answer. And in terms of playoff format, because I know a lot of people clamor for 1 versus 8 and worry about, the 2 best teams are playing in the second round. I've always argued I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the bracket. And yeah, if it so happens that Dallas and Colorado are 2 of the best teams that are meeting in the second round, at least we get that series. You're not guaranteed of the best teams advancing in the 1 versus 8 and getting those series. In fact, more often than not, you have the upset somewhere, which prevents you from seeing the series we're all looking forward to in round 2 or round 3.
See, I'm of the mind.
What I can say about that is something they can change at their whim.
Yeah.
That is not something that's going to be locked in and entrenched in the CBA like the lack of equalization for tax-free jurisdictions.
That the argument
that will be
division versus 1v8
for the duration of this CBA.
The 1v8 versus divisional playoffs has the same gravitas to me as the reaction to an NFL division winner getting into the playoffs with a losing record or a 500 record. Like, wait a second, and your tough division, it's going to change.
Well, the Seahawks the 1 year with the losing record, and then they win the playoff game because they get it at home.
But those are outlier moments, and
I would argue they're a little more. Problem with the NFL, it's 8 divisions, 4-team divisions, so you're getting that route. There is actually a little bit of talk about whether or not they need to.
No, what I'm saying in your division, like it's not like that same division is going to suck interminably.
Fair,
and so,
but the league at large is almost dealing with 1 per year.
But it moves around, so who cares?
Okay. He doesn't care.
I don't care about the other one, too. Well, you ought to be better. Win your hockey games, and you're going to be okay.
What I'd say about the NFL is the argument that of the sanctity of division winners falls a little flat with me when it's 4-team divisions.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, to go back to baseball when they had 4 playoff teams, winning the division was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Like, winning the division, like, you remember 85 with the Blue Jays, right? Like, it was almost like winning a championship.
It was.
It was extraordinary.
Well, because 4 teams made the playoffs.
You beat out 6, 7 other teams.
But only 4 teams
in
made
a division.
it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, the NFL, when they moved to the Division 4, like, especially like if you got a couple of teams rebuilding or in transition in your division, winning that division isn't much of an achievement.
What a terrible business model that was. We have 28 teams. 4 of you will be happy at the end of the year. 4 of you.
Well, Blake even go further back.
What a terrible business model.
It was just 2 leagues, right? There was 1 playoff team from each league, 2 total.
Crazy.
No, it was. And that's why baseball has reformulated. And I'll be mayor of Wrongville. I was wholly against the wild card. I should say, I wound up being wrong. When we were treating wild card teams the same as division winners in baseball, that was wrong.
Yeah.
That was unjust. Criticisms like I had at the time was warranted. But it did keep more teams involved. It did make the baseball season more interesting. And now that they've massaged it to whereby wildcard teams are a special, basically play-in category, and division winners do have that primacy of having home field and not having to play the play, I think they've gotten to the right format.
You're basically bringing us full circle here back to the original point of there's more teams now. A couple more teams deserve to.
Yep. I am more and more open to that notion with each and every year. So you and Jeff are doing a great job wearing me down on that. Marco Sturm is the new coach of the Boston Bruins, a former Vancouver Canuck for a minute, but also a candidate for the Canucks head coaching job. And Blake, there is going to be no shortage of bench comparisons for Adam Foote next season.
Which isn't totally fair because they've all got different crews to work with.
It's not totally fair, and yet it's going to happen because the Vancouver Canucks chose this head coach over Manny Malhotra, who may have a Calder Cup championship when this is all said.
And may have a new job in a month, too.
We have already talked about the more winning that Manny does in Abbey, the more it gets a little more uncomfortable and hot under the collar for the Canucks brass and for Foote, knowing that Manny was one of the finalists and you chose Foote. Sturm getting as far along as he did with the Vancouver Canucks. If he has a fantastic season in Boston and the Canucks are struggling underfoot, I guarantee you we will see that in our inbox. And then, of course, Tocchet himself in Philadelphia. Like, if he waves the magic wand on Philadelphia like he did with the Canucks a couple of years ago, oh, man, RIP our inbox and mentions. So you're right. It is unfair, but this is the game they're in, right? They decided to take a guy who didn't have a ton of coaching experience to begin with and make him the head coach, in part because of familiarity. They didn't want to go out and hire somebody they didn't know as well. Okay, there's some logic to that. There was also logic to a clean break. There was also logic to a more experienced head coach, and you chose Foote, and now he's chosen assistants. It's a relatively inexperienced bunch. We'll see how they do.
Yes or no answers. Speed round.
Oh, no, I hate this.
And not based on any unforeseen scandal. Just based on wins and losses. Based on success on the ice.
Okay.
Is Adam Foote guaranteed to finish the season behind the bench?
No.
Then my second question is moot. Is he guaranteed to start next season? But you think it's that tenuous a grip on the job?
Yeah.
I feel like it should be too. I think it should be too.
Well,
he's a bit of an incumbent.
He's unproven, and yet, yes, is tied in incumbency to last season. It's a 3-year deal, but as many have reported, it's pretty low money for an NHL head coach. Scapegoat may be needed, and I think if there is a scapegoat, probably Alvin or Foote, right?
Yeah.
Unless Jimmy falls on the sword and walks away and says, I've had a great career, I'm 76, 77. And Blake, like, I'm preparing for the possibility it could be an unmitigated disaster.
It's on the menu.
Because the Kelowna Rockets were a disaster. And Bruce Hamilton, the owner there, has taken blame for that, and that's great. That was very forthright and sporting of Bruce to do that. But there were also some pretty awful, foot wanting to war with everybody in the orbit. So, yeah, temperamentally, we'll see how he does with this gig.
To bring both of these two last storylines together, we were just talking playoff format.
And just the other thing, it's all about keeping Quinn Hughes. If things are going poorly and Quinn doesn't like what's going on, and particularly with the coaching staff, I think you have to move on foot and bring the new guy in.
We were just talking baseball format, and then we pivoted to the Canucks coaching. Let's wrap them all up into a big burrito. Adam Foote is doing a media availability as we speak right now, for those of you watching live, from the Blue Jays game. He's...
With whom?
What do you mean?
He's doing a media availability?
Like the Canucks, an official, like, we've got a new coaching staff.
Oh, yeah.
But it all happened, I guess, unexpectedly for them. And so he's at Skydome, whatever you want to call it.
Blue Jays and Phillies.
Yeah, he's at the game. That's the backdrop.
So he's doing it from the seats?
I don't know. We're not. We're doing the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
at least he's got a good taste in baseball team.
But, like, this surprised them this much? They're like, oh, let's do it now.
Well, I was a little
Where's
surprised
Coach?
with the release because
they made it sound like it was days away.
Well, sometime away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
maybe they wanted to get the jump. Maybe Brett McLean was so in demand from other coaching staffs. And, of course, new coach in Pittsburgh as of yesterday, new coach in Boston as of
Dean had already leaked, and so I think that they wanted to make sure that he didn't leak.
Let's get today's menu brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to watch all the games, home and away. Also, an outstanding spot for your upcoming party or event. If you need a venue for team building or a summer sociable, check out Greta. The fantastic street food menu, the decadent poutine, the arcade that encircles the bar with a game for everybody. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We're speaking to Patrick Johnston here on a number of topics. Vasily Podkolzin, Derek Forbert, Thatcher Demko. We missed this the other day. Demko also not in the marketing material with the Canucks. And then Ben Lypka, who has covered the Abbotsford Canucks for the Abbotsford News since their inception. He's been there for the good, the bad, the trials and tribulations, with his thoughts on this franchise about to make the Calder Cup final and the vibe in Abbotsford and the Fraser Valley with their team on a run. All that is coming up. Time now for our Bet365 Bets of the Day. The segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. What did you have yesterday?
I had a 2-goal victory for the Abbotsford Canucks.
Didn't happen.
Alas, I cannot claim victory there.
I had a future, so I'll go. NBA final start tonight. OKC is a prohibitive favorite. You can bet how long the series will go. 5 games is the chalk here. I'm going to take 6 games at plus 280.
5 games is the chalk, really?
5 games is the chalk. People thinking it's going to be OKC in 5. 5 games is plus 175. Game 6 is plus 280. Game 7 is plus 330. I consider Game 7 as well. Hard. I'd love to see 7 games here, but I'm going to go with 6.
I'm going to take a look at the Gold Cup. I thought
the Shield or the Gold Cup?
I'm going to go Shield. The Gold Cup odds are not in our betting favor. They're in Canada's favor way too much.
Yes. Yes. Wow. I mean, Honduras. And
Ukraine is actually ranked above us. Did you know that?
Yeah.
They're inside the top 30.
Although FIFA World Rankings are.
Yeah, it gives you an idea at the very least. Canada is 30 on the dot, and Ukraine, I think, is 26 or 28. So despite this being on home turf for Canada, plus 115 for Canada to get the win versus Ukraine on Saturday.
Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you from game props, player props, totals, money line. You can bet series winner, Conn Smythe winner, whatever your bet. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, must be 19 or older. PJ, coming up next. Sakaris, Price, Wall Center.
Ho hum, another beautiful day. Boy, we had a good spring, haven't
Historic.
we? And now I'm a big good chance to go.
Not the spring.
Oh, Toyota's pretty historic, too.
That, too.
And their electric lineup's starting to get historic. You think about how old the Prius is, the OG Prius. But they've added something new, the BZ4X.
It's beautiful.
Go take one for a test drive today. It's sporty yet spacious. This big fellow over here, comfortably seated in the front seat. Huge cockpit, really it is.
It is.
Go take one
I
for a
was
test
really
drive.
surprised because it didn't look that way on the outside, and then you get into it and you're like, wow, where's all this room coming from? It's
Electric
awesome.
cars, you take up, you need less space for the driving, like for the actual guts of the car. So there's more space for the humans. Go take one for a test drive. That's all they ask, and fall in love. And right now, they got up to $5,000 in incentives for the LE all-wheel drive edition. You can get financing from 0.99% for 36 months. Go check it out. Stay in the HOV lane for life. ShopToyota.ca.
Here's Patrick Johnston of the Province Postmedia. He covers the Vancouver Canucks. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. It's sunny out.
morning.
The strawberries are turning red. So on and so on.
Oh, good.
There's been good strawberries this year.
Go berry picking. All right. Let's start with this because we all noticed the marketing poster that was missing Elias Pettersson the other day.
Yep.
But
it's not just a poster, Matt. It's not just a poster. There's also if you go to the ticket member sign up website, they have a little video scroll at the top. There's no PD and there's no who, Matthew.
Well, you noticed no Thatcher Demko. We all missed that. You noticed that. What a keen eye. What do you think?
Stood out to me.
So do you think it's intentional that Pettersson and Demko were left out of this marketing material because of the possibility of a trade?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the Pettersson one, is there's also the option that he's just such a sort of negative image right now that that's not something you want to put in front of prospective buyers.
That's crazy that you can say that. Again, I
know.
think
If that's the case,
I know.
Probably should trade him.
Like, as I contended with him, like, there's more Pettersson jerseys than everybody else on this team on fans' backs other than Hughes. More Pettersson jerseys than anybody
Hughes,
else.
Pettersson, and then the mishmash. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's wild. So that was my sort of that was my thought. Was okay, maybe it's just that. Maybe they are trying to move him. I mean, I know I think I've said that before. They've talked certainly quite a bit about it. But yeah, the Demko one, I was like, okay. And so I poked around and I talked to one person. They said, yeah, that's a way to get. That's part of your package for a second line center would be a guy like him. Talked to someone who's got sort of insider knowledge of what's going on there, and they're frustrated with a lot of the. There's that overall. I think we know this going back, but trying to change the culture of that room goes beyond just moving out JT Miller. There's an overall here. That they need to find a better alignment, guys. A better aligned group.
Now, just to be clear, Demko on his own with 1 year left coming off the injury is not getting you a second line center, right?
No. But if your team, like Utah, this is just me spitballing. I mean, I don't know this one, but like a team like Utah, would you want to take a bet on him? And could you build
if
a
you're
package?
trying to make the next step? Yep.
Yep. And could Canucks turn around and get Nick Schmaltz? Like, again, this is just me spitballing. I'm not actually, this is not, but this is a thing. This is the kind of thing you're thinking about. What's the second line center on another team? If you're not going to be able to sign Sam Bennett,
They're not signing Sam Bennett.
No, guys. I mean, Rutherford said it himself.
Schmaltz got 1 year left, too.
Rutherford has said it himself, and you check around, and it's absolutely true. They are going to have trouble signing free agents. Now, he can talk about taxes and all that, whatever, but I think it's more just the overall situation. It's the talk at departure thing, right? It's looking at what is the future here? How is this team, what is ownership's reputation? What is the overall picture here? And it's not good. There are places, there's a lot of options available to free agents this summer. And I do not think Vancouver is going to be very high on their list. So if you're looking to make a trade, make these fixes, you have to be bold, and they have to look at changing things up. And I think they want to generally change up the makeup of this team. That was something I heard going way back into the season. They realized in the end they inherited a group that had one playoff run and were probably too pleased with themselves.
I think I've maybe asked you this before. I forget who I have and who I haven't, but like, are you odds on that there are a couple of wow moves by the Vancouver Canucks, like deep cut moves, changes to this team?
I mean, certainly they would like to. I mean, I think I've said this time and again for a couple of years now. They talk big. They have big ideas. Now, have they pulled a lot of those off? No.
But they're unafraid.
They're not afraid of the idea, that's for sure.
No. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's... If you're looking at their situation and saying, we have to do everything we can with Quinn Hughes this coming season, they know that. And they're going to see what they can do. And the idea that anybody is available, I think, is pretty clear. Other than Quinn Hughes.
Keep looking at the collar on your shirt.
It's a
Why?
Yeah, it's one of these like modern itty bitty
mocks.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I put on this morning. It's comfortable.
Yeah.
But we
Chesty's
digress.
poking out too. Yeah. Well, no, he started rubbing it, and I was like, okay, look at that. It's a chesty kind of day.
Oh my God!
All right.
Working around the house.
No segue out of this.
Forbert re-signed. Does that give them the depth on the blue line and flexibility to trade one of those young blue liners?
Probably. Yeah. You look at the mix. I mean, you got Willander, you got Pettersson, Mancini, I guess. Although I don't know really what his real upside. I mean, he's obviously playing very well in the AHL right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Willander is the guy of those three that they would most like to trade?
Well, he's the least proven, right? Like he's the biggest. If you go with trading unknowns is what you should be doing. What do you know, right? This goes back. This is a point that our old pal Cam Sharon made to me when we were still at Canucks Army 12 years ago, and he was advocating, no, you don't trade Luongo, you trade Corey Schneider, because you know Luongo is what he is. You think you know what Schneider is, but you don't actually know that for sure. And they ended up doing that, interestingly enough. So yeah, I mean the unknown thing. I mean, all prospects are bad, right? I don't think Tom Willander is a bad prospect, but you also know what you have right now. So to me, the positional thing is that right side is always going to be a challenge. So do you really want to do that?
Okay.
But if you have to do something, like, it's not going to be easy, right? Like if you were trying to get rid of, make it like the signing of Forbort was such a statement about what they want. Like obviously the season did not go well, but I heard this from way back that this was a guy they realized, no, this guy's solid, reliable. There's no like, I mean, clearly there's no diva element. There's no, he's not soft emotionally. There's no drama with him. He's he by simply being a beacon or sort of an island in the storm, like he was a guy that is a person you want on your team. And of course the lesson was that walking away with, I've said this before, Ian Cole, to a degree Nikita Zadorov, influences that want to get stuff done but in a positive way. That they recognize that was a huge problem this year.
Soft emotionally, it's quite a term.
Using the same theory, though, back to the goaltenders. You keep Demko and you trade Lankin, but you can't trade Lankin until... Well, I guess
There are 3 Edmonton Oilers wins away from yet another lesson that you need 2 goaltenders to win a Stanley Cup.
That's the thing, right?
Pickard played well and won them games when Skinner was down and round.
I'm not the only person who said this. I know that, but there was frustration with Demko, right? Like, listen, he got hurt. It was an unusual injury. It took him a long way to come back, but over the course of the season, I think they started thinking, is this a direction we need to think about? And obviously signing Lankinen, even if they overpaid him, signing Lankinen was a statement about how they feel about it. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right, Matt. You need 2 goalies. But at the same time, if your goalies are Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard...
Well, I think they're a little offset by the guys who are playing up.
Absolutely.
Front,
that's the fundamental story. The fundamental story is 2 things, right? Like, if you look at the league... There's the sort of days of the superstar goalie standing on his head doing everything for you, the Pekka Rinne era, that's way behind us because shooters are so much better now. That's a big story. But it's also simply truth that the sort of the baseline of your perfectly fine goalie is actually higher than we realize, but it's not as, it's lower than we expect, but higher than we realized. Stuart Skinner has gotten the Edmonton Oilers, Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard have gotten the Edmonton Oilers to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row. They've done enough, and it's about the whole picture. So do we talk about goalies too much? Probably. Do we overpay goalies? Do goalies get overpaid? Probably. Do you need to pay Jake Andre $8 million a year? It doesn't seem like it. He's a good goalie.
On that note, then, do the Canucks need the elite goaltender anymore? Like, how do we rate the Canucks' defense? Is it good, very good, or great?
Well, their defense was pretty good this year. I mean, they obviously had some struggles, right? Like, there were some moments that were bad, and a lot of that was on goaltending. So I don't know where the answer lies. I think their defense is pretty solid. They played pretty well defensively.
I think it's pretty solid, too. Yeah.
Right? The problem fundamentally became they did not score enough goals. And so how do you square those 2 things? You cannot play too defensive. That is clear. You need to actually open it up. And the Canucks struggle with that. And whether that was on Rick Tocchet or simply the complete total underperformance of Elias Pettersson, and Matt and I've argued this before, but to a degree, JT Miller. Your system was set up for your centerman to attack the middle of the ice, and that simply was not happening. So is it simply just get at least one new face in the middle? Hope that Philip Hedl is going to play this season? I mean, that just seems like such a poor plan. We know that hope is not a plan. So it's the defense, I think, is fine. I think on the whole, the goaltending's fine. I don't think it's Kevin Lankinen and Archer Shilovs. I think it's Kevin Lankinen and somebody else.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh. Well, that's news.
That's just me. I mean, that's me. But I just, I don't buy Shilovs. I'm on the record as being out. I think he's a great guy. Loves playing in May.
Yeah.
Loves playing. You like those guys.
Really, the same question applies to the goaltending that applies to the defense. That if you look at it right now, that's what you want. In the case of the crease, 2 starting competent goaltenders and a number 3 who has played. And you have won with, even if you didn't win with him much last year. Defense, and that's my next question for you, that looks really good. Like the 7 guys you've got, really good with Wielander and Kudryavtsev as potential fill-ins if injuries crop up as your 8th and 9. My question for you is, how do you think, with the Forbort signing, how do you think they line them up when everyone's healthy? Is Forbort playing third pair left side and DPD playing his offside on the right? With Mancini as your 7th? Or do you think Forbort's the 7th and they played the 2 kids?
Well, I mean, here's the other factor in thinking about this, and go back to the, would you trade Pettersson or one of those guys questions? I mean, they are interested in Bowen Byram. They are one of many teams, but they are interested. What if you get Bowen Byram? Then, I mean, you're clearly moving somebody else out here, right? To me, Forbort is your bottom end guy. He probably, he was a really good penalty killer. So yeah, you're trying to find a way to keep him in the lineup, whether that's on the left or the right. But clearly they're going to make some kind of commitment to having a guy on his offside, Explain the Byram interest to me. Well, I mean, I think it's more of a long-term one, right? So if you are worried about Hughes' future, he's your plan B, right? You need a good skating, puck-moving defenseman, And in the long run, if it's not going to be Quinn Hughes, I guess Bowen Byram would look good in that spot. He's obviously not Quinn Hughes, but he still brings that style of game, which clearly you need. Like, if you're going to survive, you need a defenseman who can skate. We know that. We look at every team, that has success in any part of the game now. You have defensemen who can move. And is Byram that guy? I mean, does he have the track? He's certainly clearly an NHL defenseman. Does he have the track record to be the guy? I think so.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Boy, that's the trade cost on that one. I mean, Buffalo would have to really like Elias Pettersson. Anyways.
Yeah.
Because, would they trade Elias Pettersson straight up for Bowen Byram? You're not doing that, right?
No. Elias Pettersson, the center? No.
Yes, the center.
Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, yes.
Oh.
But, I'm just saying, I don't know how all that shakes out, but that if they are obviously, they have, like I said, they're interested in that guy. So if you bring that guy in, that tells you that there is obviously a young defenseman who's going out somewhere in whether it's in that trade or another move,
But it has to be a lefty, though.
To go back to the original question is, this is, and you're thinking in big terms. They are thinking in big terms, and these are examples of how you think in big terms, and that means you are also moving somebody out that,
okay.
is
That's
young.
the other option here, guys. They just load the hell up if you think you can get Byram. Rather than, if you think it's easier to get Byram than it is a legit second-line center, do you just have emphatically the best, deepest defense in the entire National Hockey League?
Yeah.
And try to create offense from the blue line? We always say offense begins from the blue line.
Yeah.
And try to get some guys some career highs that otherwise wouldn't get it because they're being helped out by a mobile and active defense.
I mean, you do have other things to do. I talked to someone who, another person on their team, and he looked at sort of what do they actually have? What are things that they can move? You're looking at Demko, you're looking at Höglander, you're looking at Willander, you're looking at Karamaki, you're looking at their draft pick, Elias Pettersson, the defense, Junior Pettersson, Elias Pettersson, the defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
It was I've sort of been operating on. They have not a lot. Well, he's like, no, there's more there than you realize. Like, it's not. They are not in an impossible situation. It's just, it's going to be, if they are going to do things, they are definitely going to be dramatic.
Mm-hmm. Moving on, the Bogey Juice poll question. Did the Canucks give up on Vasily Podkolzin too soon?
I mean, I don't know if I said it at the time, but I probably should have. I certainly thought it. This was a guy, I mean, he got some stability, he got a fresh look. Maybe that is what he needed. But fundamentally, here's a guy who, as I've detailed many times before, barely played after getting drafted for 2 years, playing in a sort of a hockey culture that's young guys, their sole job is to not screw up. And then he comes here, and in his first season has 2 coaches. Played pretty well at the end.
Down the stretch, he played great.
For Boudreau. And then he's in the middle of team chaos. Boudreau doesn't really know what to do with him. And they end up breaking him that season. And he goes down to the AHL, and he tried to find his love for the game again. I mean, I think there was a lot going on in his life. We perhaps forget that he and his wife became young parents. And as we know, that is a shock to the system. It would be a shock to the system when you're 21 years old. And then, found himself under a new coach and a new, and there just was just never ending. There was no stability for him. And he's playing well. Like, listen, he's playing well. He's a useful player, but he's also, let's be clear, right now on the 4th line with the Edmonton Oilers, and he may win a Stanley Cup, and that's awesome. Right?
But that makes his production even better. Like 17 games on the 4th line.
He's an effective NHL player. Like clearly, he's an effective NHL player. Could he have made these Canucks better? I think so. In the end, it like I said, was a decision made that, I mean, they had roster decisions to make. In hindsight, one of those was because they'd signed Danton Heinen, who just did not work,
and Daniel Sprong,
and
the book was out on Daniel Sprong.
Yeah, and that was a dart throw, and they thought, well, let's see what. But they didn't. The player. It's funny going back and looking at some of the numbers, because Sprong's numbers in his 9 games are still pretty good. He actually was doing the stuff they wanted him to do, but they just felt in the end it wasn't going to work. So Yeah, the process was not great because you sat back. I mean, if you go from the very beginning saying we are just simply not going to keep this player on our team, then fine. But it also felt a bit like they kind of threw a bunch of guys in the basket and they wanted to see if everybody could make it to the cash register. And they knew at some point they may have to give something up.
Yep. Okay. We don't have a lot of time, and it's a meaty issue. But the commissioner says there are no plans to address jurisdictional tax discrepancies in the next CBA. And so the Florida teams, Dallas, Nashville, Vegas, Seattle, will continue to be able to tell free agents on July 1st, hey, the $8.5 million here goes way further than the $10 million in Ontario, BC, California, name a jurisdiction.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, I mean... I found myself reacting to the Bissonnette Anson Carter conversation, I guess, on TNT last week, and with Bissonnette saying this is something we need to address, and Anson Carter go, well, this hasn't been a problem before, and I kind of thought, saying, Anson, you're right, it hasn't been a problem before, but now it is because those teams are good. We just hadn't noticed it before. Now I'm a bit ambivalent on this. It's clearly an issue, but also it's not an issue. I mean, it's an issue that exists for everybody. Right, so the NFL deals with this internally in the United States. The NBA deals with the fact that they have the Toronto Raptors. The Blue Jay, Major League Baseball deals with the Blue Jays, but they also again have California and New York and various other jurisdictions that have tax structures that are not the same as they are in Florida or Texas or Washington State. There are clear advantages, but I in the end I kind of fall back on saying, listen, yes, if you are being really smart, you are streamlining your cap in a way that is advantageous. But I find it also notable that the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, the Dallas Stars, the Vegas Golden Knights are all teams that have strong owners who have hired smart people to run their teams, who understand how to make a team work. And they are left to do their jobs. And that is fundamentally the bottom line here. And, I suppose you could have gone in and said, yeah, let's just figure this one out. We can come up with some formula to calculate for all this. And yes, sure. I don't think there would have been any reason not to do that. But I think at the end of the day, it's not as big an issue as Preston talked about. I mean, listen, I talked to Axel Schuster because it exists for him in MLS. I talked to Axel Schuster about this very issue. And he said, yes, like I have missed out on a player or two in sort of internally in MLS, so basically Americans and Canadians who are covered off by their structure as opposed to chasing the global market. I mean, he's like, yes, I missed out on a guy a couple seasons ago because he signed it at a level where if you're at $600,000, that makes a difference. It's $100,000 savings on the income tax by signing in another jurisdiction versus signing here. Yeah. He's like, so I can't go after those guys. But that doesn't mean, it's a global market. There's a lot of guys out there.
Well, that's it. He's got a global market, though. You don't have that in hockey to the same degree.
That's also you. But he says, fundamentally, in the end, I have to work a little bit harder and I have to work a lot smarter. And that's simply the truth here. Look at the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, yes, they have Connor McDavid and they have Leon Draisaitl, two of the best players in the world. But they still built a team that's good enough to make the Stanley Cup final, right? Like, you have to make some choices. So I get it, but it's not a big deal.
I'm not as much of a hawk on this as Matt is.
I'm very hawkish on this because...
But here's the thing. Gary Bettman has never embraced capology for the fans.
Right.
So he's always said that fans don't keep track of that sort of thing. They just want to watch great hockey. So and
he's wrong.
By his own extension, though, by that logic, then what do you care if there's a little bit of an algorithm and put in where... It accommodates for that. Like somebody explain to me what the downside of running through every contract through this calculator would be. What's the downside?
Exactly.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. Like on the whole, sure. Like there doesn't seem like a real reason not to do that, but on the scale of competitive issues in terms of building your team, it's not something that's terribly high. I mean, I asked a bunch of agents. One said, Dan Milstein's yelled about this publicly. It wasn't Milstein that said this. It was a different guy. He said, yeah, maybe. But then I talked to a couple other people, and they're like, like people that work for teams, and they're just like, it's rarely a thing that really comes up. Now, I guess the question
it may not come up because it's a private conversation between the player and his accountant.
Yeah, but I guess
right? Like,
here's my question for you. You know, if you're...
they don't come out and say it's about the money when they sign, right? They say everything else but the money when
we go back 15 years, and our old pal Lawrence Gilman has talked about that. And they talked about it at the time. They went and said to their players, they said to the Sedins, they said, Alex Burrows, guys, if you're willing to sign for less, we can use the money we've saved on that to sign someone new. And that's certainly something, if Bill Zito is smart, he can go into a room and say to Sam Bennett or a free agent, right? He can go to a prospective free agent and say, listen, I am not going to give you as big a cap hit, but you're still going to make more money. And if that is something that rings true, that is a problem. I just haven't heard a lot of evidence of that.
That's it, though, Patrick.
I get what you're saying.
Every good team, and look, I am open-minded about I am open-minded on the argument that this is just cyclical, that Florida and Dallas and Tampa and Vegas have been exceptionally well managed, and that in a few years from now, the teams with tax advantages are not going to be representative as much as they have been in the conference finals. And so let's take a look at it over a big, large swath of time and see how advantageous it is. I'm completely open-minded to that. I am also cognizant of the fact that you've had 6 teams disproportionately represented in the conference finals here over the last 6-7 years, however long it's been. And so, and that your remedy is the next year. And if you don't remedy it in the next year, and it persists through the duration of what could be, a 5, 6, 7, 8-year CBA, right, then you have a competitive advantage that's going to be in place for a decade plus. Right. Because, to use your example of Mike and Lawrence going to the Sedins and others and saying, if you guys can take less, we can redeploy it into the team and build a contender here. Bill Zito can do that with the added benefit of, and by the way, you're not even taking all that much less.
Yeah.
If you sign here as opposed to attack.
I'm just thinking aloud. Here's the other upshot of doing this, guys. Because unless you've got no move clauses on every single contract, if you deploy that strategy for contracts, hey, take a little bit less here, then we can fit more players in. 2 years into that 5-year deal, guess what? You can trade that player at his low cost to somebody else, and that player all of a sudden becomes a smashing deal for somebody else, and you get to extract even more value out of that contract.
So any way you slice it, these clubs have the ability to extract more value out of the salary cap, Patrick, and that is the exact principle that they went after on the backdiving contracts.
And here's the thing, and I wasn't really able to dig out. I did ask the PA a question about this. I didn't hear back, but I found myself thinking at the same time, if you're the PA, why are you agreeing to such a system? Because it's
more money.
No, because your players in Florida and Tampa and Texas and Washington and Nevada are making more money, right? Like they're making their salaries, and it's a thing that they like. So why are you making that more difficult for them?
Of course.
No, I'm just saying.
Course. I can understand why there's NHLPA alignment on this.
Yeah, and that's why I found myself thinking that even if they wanted to do this, you're not going to get the PA to sign.
There was not NHLPA alignment on the backdiving contracts, and still they made that so. That's true. Anyways,
it was a different environment, though. I feel like I don't know. They seem happier. I don't know. I'm still skeptical, but they seem happier. I don't know why. Anyway,
or maybe the teams that are benefiting from this are the teams that came in on Gary's watch and are part of growing the game in non-traditional places. Right? There's that as well.
Like the guys.
Great chat.
Corner. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sick Harrison Price from the Historic Wall Center. This next interview brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, now open for the 2025 season and accepting online bookings for the entirety of it. Get those tee times locked in. Check out all the Bear activity at Whistler Golf on social. It's been quite pronounced this year. And if you have a group of 12 or more and you can play midweek, ask for the Sick Harrison Price midweek special. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Al Chris Manson, the fine team up there at the Whistler Golf Club, going to take good care of you. whistlergolf.com/groups. Ben Lypka is a reporter and photographer with the Abbotsford News. We have relied on Ben's reporting and content to follow this team from the jump because he's been there day one, and here they are, one win away from the AHL's Calder Cup, and Ben joins us from Abby. How you doing? Long time no talk.
Yeah, good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for the invite.
We're fantastic. No, really enjoying your coverage of this team, and needless to say, at their absolute height. Tell me, Ben, what does a game day or a game night look like in Abbotsford these days with this team on such a run?
Well, playoffs has been a little different. There's definitely a lot of buzz around the team, especially kind of around the arena. Like it's packed. Like King Road, which is the road that connects the arena to the rest of the city, like that can be pretty packed on game day. Outside the arena, there's some atmosphere, but I don't know. Outside of that, it's kind of a little sheltered. Ticket sales started off pretty slowly for playoffs, like especially the first round, but they've picked up. And in the last two rounds, like there's been pretty solid crowds. And overall, like they have to be completely thrilled with how this whole playoff run's going. I mean, but I do feel there could be a little more buzz. Like I kind of want stuff on the streets. Maybe they could have a presence at the mall. Like it doesn't really feel like this team's on a deep, like, in Vancouver, when they're on a deep run, you can feel it throughout the entire city, and not so much in Abbotsford yet. And maybe that's going to come here in the next few weeks.
But yeah, you know what? I think if they advance to the final, it's a different kettle of tea.
Even for the Lions and the Whitecaps, they struggle to, get those routines necessarily unless there's been some winning of late. Is there a chance that you think that this run can plant some seeds for the future and establishing those routines and traditions and bode well for them in years to come here?
Yeah, absolutely. And even like Abbotsford's a pretty big Vancouver Canucks market. Like last year, during the Vancouver run, we had, it's similar to what happens in Delta. Like we have down South Fraser Way, we have cars, 2011, same thing. So big traffic, horns honking all night. So I could see that possibly happening as we get a little bit deeper here.
Who's become the darling of the run, do you think, for the fans right now? Who do people credit with all this success?
It's got to be Seelovs, and he's kind of been a darling for years here. So, even when he was called up last year during the playoffs, fans, they followed him there, obviously, and he's just a guy, like the fans are chanting his name throughout the entire game, and he's played well, obviously. But another guy who's the guy that everyone kind of talks to me is about his Sammy Blaze. And he actually got a Sammy chant the last home game, which was a first. And he's just somebody that I think kind of Abbotsford fans kind of enjoy watching. He's a big physical presence out there. He bowls guys over. He's kind of out of control sometimes too. So he's a lot of fun to watch. He's not exactly sometimes the most disciplined guy. But Sammy Blaze is another guy who fans have really taken to, especially during this playoff run.
Hey, Ben, the thing is you could see this coming because, of course, the team went on that 13-game winning streak late in the season. If you had to identify, like, what were the catalysts? How did this team get so good so quickly at the end of the year? What would you say? Yeah,
I was thinking about that, actually, and what's funny about that is in December, January, that was not what people were thinking at all. Like, I was looking at the schedule, and late December, early January, they lost 6 in a row. They were pretty much out of the playoff picture at that point, and they weren't scoring goals. And I mean, missing the playoffs, especially in the Pacific Division, would have been a disaster. So you're not in the top 7 teams, and that's where Abbotsford kind of was at that point. But yeah, basically, sort of after the All-Star break, that's when things sort of started coming together, which is strange because that's when a lot of guys were called up to Vancouver too. But whatever Manny's doing, like his magic seems to be working. Whatever he's deciding to do as far as the lineup, as far as like obviously the special teams during the regular season were incredible. They had an amazing penalty kill. They didn't allow a single goal shorthanded the entire season. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's due to Manny, personally. I mean, just look what he did last night. He took out Klimovich, he put in Klimovich, and it paid off. So everything he's been touching has been going to gold, especially in this playoff run.
It seems like it's been an ebb and flow of veterans carrying the mail and then the young prospects carrying the mail. And I say young with lowercase y because Karlsson and Sasson aren't exactly young necessarily as prospects, but you know what I mean, versus the Blaze and PDGs of the world.
Yeah. So early on in the playoff run, like especially round 1 and 2, it was pretty much all Sammy Blaze and PDG. Like they were carrying the load, and especially that line of Sammy Blais, Kyra, and Nathan Smith. They pretty much won the first series for Abbotsford, and they were great against Coachella in round 2. But yeah, as the playoffs have gone on, I mean, Blaze sat yesterday, or he was scratched yesterday. As the playoffs have gone on, yeah, Linus Karlsson's really emerged as just the go-to guy. He knows how to get open pretty much every shift. He's great on the power play. But other than that, like, I mean, yeah, Karlsson's been pretty good. Max Sasson and Lipka are two guys that just haven't really been producing as much as possible. Even Archibald Baines, he hasn't scored yet. I was looking into that. He hasn't scored on a goalie since March 15th. We're almost 3 months since he's scored a goal. His last 2 goals were empty netters in the regular season. So it's been forever. Like, this guy is just beyond snake bit. So it's been a while for him. But yeah, it was kind of the veterans more so early on. And now, yeah, Linus Karlsson's really turned it on. Ty Mueller's another player. He's been consistent throughout the entire season, and he's really looked good in the playoffs. And he's playing top 6 minutes, and it's amazing how well he's fit in, because he's a rookie just like Lipka, and he's producing and does a lot of the little things out there too.
Yeah, and crazy about Archdeep because he was their best player last year, right? An AHL All-Star. And the schedule for the championship is already out, so we do know if Abbotsford advances Tuesday, June 17th, Thursday, June 19th, Saturday, June 21st. If necessary, they will not have home ice advantage, so they'll host the middle 3 games in that block should they advance here, and they'll have 3 kicks at the can. Ben, in some cases, you've been covering some of these guys for multiple years, so whether it's Artie, whether it's Kudryavtsev or Mancini, whether it's Lekramaki, Mueller, one of the Sasson, one of the forwards, like, who do you, in your mind, see one day being a regular with the Vancouver Canucks?
I think Karlsson definitely. Like Karlsson, I think he's going to be on Vancouver next year, I'd say. Another guy who we haven't mentioned who's had an excellent playoffs has been Mancini. I mean, he just, especially in the AHL level, his ability to carry the puck, he's a big body out there. He makes a lot of smart decisions at the back end. And like, I know it's kind of funny because Vancouver's kind of deep now all of a sudden defensively. So I think he's almost a little too good for the AHL at times, Mancini. But he's another guy who I think he could definitely be an NHLer. Like Ty Mueller, I think, has got an outside chance, and he's probably going to have to stay in the AHL for maybe another season or so. But like his first year was incredible for rookie. He was an all-star. He produced offensively, and Manny uses him in like all situations. And then, yeah, Max Sasson, his speed is NHL level. His finish hasn't been that great in these playoffs. He's got 3 goals. I mean, for a guy who scored, he did pretty well in the NHL, and he's got 3 goals in like 15 games. So he needs to produce more. But I think just his skills alone could make him an NHLer. And then, of course, you've got Seelovs, who's probably good enough to be in the NHL somewhere, maybe not Vancouver. I mean, there's not a lot of space for the goalies, and there's so much depth for goalies too in the organization.
Do they need to come back and wrap this up in Abbotsford, or do they take care of it on the road? They've been so good on the road.
Yeah. Personally, I kind of want to be off on Sunday. I don't want to work Sunday, so just get it over with and let's just move on and let's rest the guys a bit. But yeah, it's going to be like, it's funny because it's 3-1, but this series has been extremely close, like 2 overtime games. Game 1 was a 1-0 game. And then Texas kind of controlled game 4, game 3, sorry. But yeah, it's a super close series. So I could see Texas taking a game.
Given the rest that the
hey,
Eastern team's getting,
just-
you better wrap it up.
And the other thing is you asked that question. I'm still scarred from. No, I don't want them to go to Boston and win 2. I'd like to see them win it in game 5.
It is the Canucks after all.
On home ice, or it's okay. They lost game 6.
Yeah.
I wanted to see it on home ice in game 7.
Yeah,
but I mean, careful what you wish for, Price.
Yeah, the good thing is they do have, even if they lose in the next game, they have 2 opportunities to lose to take it on home ice. So I mean, it's been ages since they've lost 2 in a row on home ice, or 2 in a row, like, period. So I think chances are looking pretty good right now, but I don't want to speak on it. I just know I kind of want Sunday off. So if they could handle that, that'd be much appreciated.
Do you think
they haven't lost 2 in a row since early March?
Do you think Vancouver Canuck fans start to make the trek out? Do you think tickets become more scarce and atmosphere that much more built up if they get into the final here?
I think Abbotsford, the management hopes that's what they're doing, but it's a tough draw. Like I lived in the Lower Mainland when I was younger, and it's just, I still have a lot of friends out there. For whatever reason, Abbotsford just seems like an extremely long drive for a lot of people, even in Surrey. I mean, so if they get deep enough though, like I was kind of surprised. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't sell out. The earlier 2 games. I mean, this is the Final Four. When's the next time the team's ever going to make it this deep? It may never happen again. Like the last time Utica made it was like 10 years ago. So I was a little disappointed that both games weren't sold out in the Western Finals. But I think as we get deeper here, that they should sell out.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Hey, you've covered the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of one Danila Klimovich. No, because he's been there from the jump, and you've been there from the jump, Ben. What do you think a goal like last night can do for this young guy?
That was that's the biggest goal of his life. I mean, probably the biggest goal he's ever going to score, maybe. But Danila's a guy who I love covering him because he's kind of like Sammy Blazin a bit. He's kind of all over the place. If he's upset, he's upset. He wears his emotions. Like he has a bad shift, he slams his stick. He shows frustration. He still needs a lot of work defensively. He's a pretty flawed player. So he's a lot of, for a reporter, he's a lot of fun to watch. But all the tools are there though. Like he has the size, he has the skill. He showed that last night. Like he has all the tools that Jim Benning thought he had back in the day.
Yeah.
But it was really nice to see him get rewarded because he's someone who's kind of like, there was rumors that past coaches didn't like him. It's just, so it was nice to see him finally produce in a big moment like that. But you never know what you're going to get with him. Like next game, he might take a stupid bet. Like he might do something out of control with him, with a penalty or whatever. But it was interesting to see him. And, he had a great regular season. That's what a lot of people forget. He hasn't played much in these playoffs just because of the depth coming in from Vancouver. But he had 25 goals. He led the team in goals during the regular season. So the guy has some offensive skill. The problem with him is he's got to be playing in the top 6 role because if he's playing a bottom 6, and that's what he was doing earlier in these playoffs, he doesn't get engaged. You don't even notice him. Yeah. So as long as he's playing the top 6, I think he can be pretty effective. And replacing Lekaramäki with him, basically, I thought that was a pretty ballsy move by Maholtra because I can't imagine Vancouver wants their top prospect.
No, no, that's a great shout. That it was a ballsy move to. So,
that's what I was suggesting on Twitter, and I'm just an idiot on Twitter suggesting things. But they went with that, and it paid off big time.
Hey, you're an informed idiot. Okay? You sit there and watch the games and practices, so you know better than most. And I'm going to end with you, Ben Lypka, on a question in your other area of expertise, because I got a nice note from Ben a couple of months ago when we had Victoria's Chelsea Green on the program, and Ben is a contributor to Slam Wrestling. Is she going to be the biggest wrestling star in BC history when it's all said and done?
I think there's an argument that she already is at this point.
Wow.
I mean, she's wrestled at WrestleMania. She's a star already. Yeah, she first ever U.S. champion. And not only just the WWE stuff, like she's wrestled some massive events. She's wrestled, she was in the Lucha Underground show back in the day. She's won championships in TNA. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a short list. We were talking about it, but we have Earthquake from Surrey. He just got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame a couple months ago, so he's up there. But I think Chelsea, and she still has so many years left. So I think she has all the potential in the world, and she's just so entertaining.
She has absolutely love her vibe. Great stuff, Ben. Hope you don't have to work Sunday, bro. But we know if that's the case, that means you're working a lot next week and beyond. So look forward to the coverage. Thanks for the time.
Thanks so much, guys.
So here's some price from the historic Wall Center. Got your tickets to the big game? Why not make it a full experience? Stay downtown here at the Wall. Call 604-331-1000. Ask for the scarce and price rate. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Well, the NBA Finals begin tonight. Oklahoma City versus Indiana, the two Canadian-reliant teams built on the backs of a Paul George trade. Both of them got fat trading Paul George. It's incredible.
Is that Prince George?
Paul George.
Oh, Canadian.
No, he's not Canadian.
No, Prince George.
Prince George is Canadian. And here's the thing. This series could well be decided by the Canadians. How does Lou Dort, one of the great defenders in the NBA, how does he do guarding Tyrese Halliburton, the Indiana Pacers star, if that's the matchup OKC wants? And then flip side, the Canadian Andrew Nembhard, how does he do up against the MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if that's the matchup that Indiana wants? Throw in Ben Mathurin scoring off the bench for Indy, and this is easily the most Canadian finals we've ever had.
I'll be interested to see if it translates, if people actually pay more attention to it. I've seen a lot from the networks promoting the fact that there's two Canadians on each side of the ball.
Sure.
I wonder if more people tune in. It's tough competition with the Stanley Cup final going right alongside it, of course, but they're on every other night. So you are theoretically allowed to watch both. That is, if you want every single one of your evenings taken up.
I think this could be a fun series. So I'll be tuning in tonight and throughout. Also, major rumors swirling around the Toronto Raptors here, and the notion of acquiring Giannis Antetokounmpo from Milwaukee and or Kevin Durant from Phoenix is out there in NBA circles right now. Doug Smith, the longtime chronicler of the Raptors for the Toronto Star, reports nobody is untouchable in a Giannis trade, and Giannis has expressed a preference to stay in the Eastern Conference. Shams Charania, the NBA insider par excellence, says Phoenix is absolutely trading Kevin Durant by the draft later this month. So who knows? Maybe Masai Ujiri here is up for another Kawhi Leonard size swing, or maybe Toronto will just finish second like they did for Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. And
wake me when it's over, because there's just been a little bit too much of this. Here's the thing. Is Kevin Durant's legacy hurt by the many teams?
Yes. Kevin Durant's legacy, I think, is also hurt by the fact that he has gone ring chasing at a number of organizations now, and the only time he was successful was the time that he joined an existing champion in Golden State.
Right. You aren't creating champions yourself.
Now, if he doesn't go down with that injury against the Raptors, who knows? He might have another ring with Golden State, and we may not be talking about the Raptors as a past NBA champion.
He is a two-time NBA Finals MVP. He's a 15-time All-Star. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, of that there's no doubt. Yeah.
But, is he going to be regarded on many people's Mount Rushmores? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's one of the big difference, right, with the modern superstar in the NBA versus the old one. It would have been unthinkable for Magic Johnson or Larry Bird or Michael Jordan to go out there in free agency, look at who's a good team and say, yeah, I'm going to sign there.
This is going to be his fifth different franchise, presuming that he gets traded. Sixth different uniform, but you can't fault him for the Sonics Thunder thing.
No, I can actually remember interviewing him as a rookie down the I-5 when the Raptors played their final game.
Super skinny rookie
against the Supersonics, yes. And while with basketball, shout out to the CEBL's Vancouver Bandits. They're 5-1 to open this season. They're tied with Calgary atop the Western Conference. They've got three guys averaging more than 19 points per game. Mitch Creek, Kyle Mangus are in the top 5 in league scoring. And they play host to Ottawa Friday at the LEC. So well done. Great start to the season by the Bandits. CFL season gets underway tonight in Regina. Saskatchewan plays host to the Ottawa Red Blacks. It is the earliest the CFL season has ever started. There was a time not long ago when the CFL season began on Canada Day, but pushing the schedule up the calendar has had its benefits. You're limiting the overlap with the NFL in the fall and with the NHL come mid-October. Now, it does mean you're head-to-head against the Stanley Cup Finals, but as we know, the Stanley Cup Final goes every second night, and in this case, there's 2-day breaks throughout. So, of course, Lions Saturday against the Edmonton Elks at BC Place, pregame concert by Snoop Dogg. We mentioned this was a possibility when the schedule came out, and it looks like it's going to happen. CFL history in terms of Trey Ford and Nathan Rourke, Canadian quarterbacks, going head-to-head in Week 1 for the first time ever, and it is, in fact, the first time in nearly 60 years that you've had Canadian starting quarterbacks going up against each other. 1968 was the last time it happened, ironically, with these same two franchises, Peter Oler and Frank Cosentino for the Lions and Edmonton back then. 5 BC Lions made the TSN's panel of top 50 CFL players. Justin McInnes was number 6. Nathan Rourke was number 7. Newcomer Dejon Allen, acquired via trade of the Toronto Argonauts. He's been a CFL most outstanding lineman. Checked in at 22. Mathieu Betts at 31. And longtime veteran defensive back Gary Peters at number 33. Peters actually limited at practice yesterday, so monitor that situation. Don't want to lose your best DB for Week 1. The Whitecaps know officially now that they will be without Jaden Nelson, Ali Ahmed, and Sam Adekugbe through the Gold Cup as they make the final cut for Jesse Marsh's squad alongside 2 British Columbians, Burnaby's Nico Segur and Surrey's Joel Waterman, who plies his trade with CF Montreal.
Yeah, it's basically the exact same roster as the Canadian Shield roster, except you add Osorio and a few others. Osorio, Tom McGill's the third goalkeeper that they're adding. Kamal Miller comes back into the fold, and Alistair Johnson, who just needed a couple more weeks to rest up an injury. He will be there for the Gold Cup, is not going to be there for the Canadian Shield. But it means the Whitecaps are remaining shorthanded for a month now at least. And I was just trying to sketch out a starting 11
for Sunday against the Sounders.
Yeah, and holy cats. They're going to be okay on the back line. They'll be finding in goal, obviously. And I'm going to guess one of Ocampo or the Uruguayan Laborda are on their off wing and go to the left back position. So your back four
just to get the best 11 on the pitch, right?
Yeah. So your back four and your keeper. So there's 5 out of your 11. Totally respectable. Totally fine. Emmanuel Sabi draws in number close to up top, if not up top. There's 6. Okay, you're feeling good there. Priso is a number 6. Okay, yeah, he started some games. Yep. Okay. And then Gondo as a central midfielder. Okay, so we're up to 7, 8.
Yeah.
There's where the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. That's when it gets a little strange. So when you say for the first of all, the Canadian Shield, if you're unfamiliar, it's a 2-game friendly, 2 friendlies here. Ukraine on Saturday, Ivory Coast on Tuesday, both from Toronto's BMO Field. Mm-hmm. This guy's going to be calling them.
Yes.
What's the outlet?
On TSN.
On TSN. Mm-hmm. Columbus next Saturday is the Whitecaps' next match after this Sunday against Seattle. They're at Columbus.
Good team.
Then they have
They'll get some of the international players back, by the way. For that. Vite and Kubas should be available.
Then they have an 11-day break before coming back home to face San Diego on a Wednesday. So a little break there, and then they end the month at LAFC on June 28th. So, yeah, I was going to ask you about the 11-day break. Does that give them the opportunity to get some guys back because presumably some international teams will be done?
Yeah.
by that point.
Yeah, like Cubas in Paraguay play today, and then they play on Tuesday, June 10th. So Cubas is back for the 14th game.
Oh, okay, great.
And
Even better.
And Vitae probably a similar schedule as well. So they're not as bony for that one. And then, of course, you start to look into the summer window. You start to get pretty close to the summer window. We should start to hear some scuttlebutt.
In July, right?
Yeah, about an addition coming in July as well. So that's going to be fun to monitor as well over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it just so turns out, I mean, the Caps still have their lead atop the West, but Seattle, San Diego, LAFC, they're all charging, and they're all on the schedule before this month is out. Get your tickets. Sunday, 6 p.m. kickoff at BC Place. Get your tickets, whitecapsfc.com. Vancouver's new PWHL expansion team has players. Told you, the signing window opened yesterday, and Vancouver was busy, especially on the blue line. Claire Thompson, a Walter Cup champion, the 2025 Defender of the Year finalist, becomes the club's first ever player. A second Defender of the Year finalist, Sophie Jacques, also was signed, as was Sarah Nurse. And if you recognize the last name, cousin to both Oilers defenseman Darnell Nurse and basketballer Kia Nurse.
One time, Tim Hortons Barbie as well. Tim Hortons came up with a limited edition Barbie set of Marie-Philippe Poulin and Sarah Nurse.
Oh, okay.
So, you're getting a face of the league immediately. Not to mention some other great pieces that they've brought in as well, like Claire Thompson, Emirates Mashmeyer in goal.
Yes.
So,
and Monday is the expansion draft, everybody.
Yeah.
And when this process is all done, Vancouver will have 12 players via signings, and the expansion draft will.
We're talking Canadian gold medalists here. Like,
absolutely.
These are.
I got to hand it to the PWHL. They said, no, we're going to make sure that Vancouver and Seattle have a shot at competitiveness early on. It is a very favorable stocking arrangement in that league. RBC Canadian Open, where Taylor Pendrith ended his round 5 under and in a share of the lead at the time. 5 Canadians, in fact, were in the top 20 at one point today on the opening day, including Abbotsford's Nick Taylor. Rory McIlroy was having his struggles.
Not a great day for him. No.
TPC Toronto at Osprey Valley. As we've talked about, this is a brand new course for PGA Tour players. The Canadian Open has never been hosted there, although it has now been ordained the home of Canadian golf and is going to host this tournament regularly, like Glen Abbey back in the day. Vancouver Canadians lose 7-5 in Tri-City, spoiling a 3-hit effort from outfielder Victor Arias, who led off the game with a home run. Arias is one of the hitting prospects that's gaining traction here this season. He came into the season ranked as Toronto's number 29 prospect, but he's going to jump up some lists here, especially when you hit 284 with an 800 OPS in the spring in Vancouver in the Northwest League, which is a difficult hitting environment. Those are very tidy numbers. Sees back home Tuesday for a 6-game homestand. It includes Dog Day of Summer on Tuesday. Bring your pooch to the park. And a week from Saturday, Blue Jay Day at the Nat. Appearances from World Series MVP Pat Borders and former Jay starter Todd Stottlemyre. Get your tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com.
No word if Pat Borders is mandated to wear a super filthy Blue Jays catcher's helmet.
Yeah.
That should be part of the deal.
And the mustache, too.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe a little plug if he's still in it then.
Well, it is one of the great stories in Blue Jays lore. You have this 92 team that's like stocked with superstars.
Yeah.
And your World Series MVP is just a nondescript catcher, right? Good player.
Looked like he's plucked from the coal mines.
Honestly, he's straight out of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn. Anyways, looking forward to that. The thing, and I've heard this from a number of ex-Blue Jays, is the bond they don't realize they have with baseball fans coast to coast, because a lot of Blue Jays will do ex-Blue Jays will do alumni events across the country. There have been winters where they've done a caravan across the country. And, like, you know, guys will show up in, like, Medicine Hat or Winnipeg or, you know, pick your Canadian city. And there's tons of fans there in gear looking for autographs. And they go, wow, like, we really had an impact here.
Yeah.
Especially the 92 and 93 World Series teams. Bogey Juice poll question results from Wednesday. Are the Canucks deep enough on defense to trade one of their young defensemen? The options here were yes, no, or trade Roenick. The people voted for?
They said no.
Correct. Percentage?
48.
Right on the number, ladies and gentlemen. 39% said yes, only 13% said Roenick.
Pretty close then.
Matt did some research here, so good on Matt. We're going to credit him. He's year after year, the team says we're set, and year after year, they generally use the most D in the NHL. And he points out they have used 9 defensemen in 2011, 12, 15, 18, 19, 21, 23, and 25. They've used 10 defensemen in 14, 17, 20, 22, and 24. In 2016, they used 11 defensemen, y'all. And they only used 8 defensemen, which is kind of the minimum because you know you're using 7 in 2013. So I hear you, Matt. Shane says, if it gets them what they need, a high-end D prospect, the first pick, and a journeyman forward for a legit number 2 center, if it's the right player. I think that's about right.
Well, if you do the math, though, on the poll question, 52% are suggesting to trade from the defense.
That's fair. Yep.
So, you know, that's the majority saying, yeah, extract from the defense to get some help.
Jim says Wielander is the deal if properly put together. DPD and Mancini must be kept around. And then Cali Canuck, you win the replies yesterday. No. Someone here on X compared it to using your Visa to pay down your Amex, and that's about the best description I've seen. The bottom will fall out if you keep doing that.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yep.
I haven't quite ever got to that point. Paying down the credit card with the credit card. I hope it doesn't happen.
Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. One of our studio lights just started flashing in the middle of the first segment. I don't know why.
I do.
If it looked a bit like a strobe light,
Dance club,
disco,
it was
you know why it happened?
Yep.
Why?
It was half out of the plug here, which is at my feet. And so as I tapped my foot on the extension cord, there you go.
It's good ownership. Mm-hmm. Anything else to self-report?
Nope.
Anything from the inbox?
Nothing.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. We invite you to subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us telling you about. And keep it local.